Hey buddies, this is Minsoo from the Buddy Force coming at you with the new deck profile. So we just had our first in-person locals today in a while, and this is the deck I brought with it. I went X1, and I thought it'd be fun to share it with you guys. So here we go. So for the main deck, we have 3 Caspar, 3 Kid Brave, 2 Doc, and 3 Starfire for my Musket monster lineup. I was pretty happy with most of it. I see a lot of people cutting Doc down to 1. I personally really like Doc at 2 just because it's such an important piece of your grind game. I understand if you're going for a more aggressive approach why you'd cut it down to 1. But spoilers for later, I guess. I'm running 3 Desires, and usually you at least want 1 copy of Doc in your deck. The thing I'm most likely to cut down is Kid Brave, just because it's probably the riskiest best out of all of the muskets, but at the same time, it performed really well for me. And if you guys know muskets, you might have noticed that there's no calamity. That's not on purpose. I just kind of forgot it, got it, and that actually essentially locked me out of my rank 4 package. So that was kind of embarrassing. And next up, I have the Musket Spell Traps. I have 3 Cross Domination, 3 Desperado, 2 Last Stand, and 1 Dancing Needle. Pretty standard, and I probably wouldn't change anything about it. And lastly, the last engine I'm running, it's probably the engine that really let you go first with a deck, and that's Amazement. So I'm running the typical 3 ticket, 2 Arlecchino, and 3 Horror House. Uh, if you don't know, Amazing Time Ticket searches for any Amazement card, and if you proc it under a Musket, that's a free spell you can activate, which is a big part of why this engine's so good with it. Most of the time, I would search Arlecchino instead, because Arlecchino kind of gets you to your trap card, and it also helps you chain block your muskets on your opponent's turn, which actually is a pretty big deal because muskets are pretty susceptible to ash a lot of the time. And for my draw spells, I'm running 3 Desires and 1 Upstart. So my deck list is currently 41 cards with an Upstart. Usually that'd be really stupid, but for this specific deck, you just need a free spell to activate underneath the Musket sometimes, and Upstart is probably the best single one for doing it without any negs or any risks. Desires is probably my favorite out of the pots for Muskets because most of the time you want more cards instead of quality. Mostly because you are a control deck, and most of your cards kind of do the same thing anyway. So you just care that you have more of it than whether you have certain ones. And finally, for my hand trap lineup, I'm running 3 Ash, 3 Droll, 3 Imperm. Ash and Imperm, they're pretty straightforward. They're kind of generically good against everything. Droll, I mostly put in there because it's also kind of good against everything, but specifically against Drytron, because our remote duels had a lot of Drytron players for a while, but today I didn't play against a single Drytron player, so I ended up siding it out most of the time. It might end up going into the side deck depending on how the future tournaments go, because there is a specific card that works better with the deck, but at the same time, it's been one tournament, I'll give it another shot. And that was my main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. First things first, 3 max. It's your best card going second. It makes every single musket a potential blowout card that they have to deal with. Um, yeah, if they don't know what the card does, they'll get blown up by it. If they do know, they'll end up leaving their board pretty empty to play around it. So either way, just the threat of this card kind of works how the opponent has to play. And to go with the maxes, I have the Nightmare package of Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn. Since Max is pointing down, you can get the draws off of the link twos, and if the enemy's playing a back row deck, or any deck that sets anything, Max can special summon monsters equal to the number of back row they have. So you can just start going off with nightmares. And they eventually either go into Sword, Load, or Axis Code. Now, I just play these just to give myself options, and since my extra decks uh usually not gonna be used very much since instant fusions only have one. Um, never actually ended up going into these very much because I played a lot of monster heavy decks where I was playing the role of control, but sometimes if you're playing against back row decks, you end up being the aggressor, and then these would start being more useful. And now for my Exes, I'm playing Nightmare Shark, Downer Magician, so as a package for my double A Zeus. That's pretty straightforward. And I'm playing the Utopia package of Utopia and Utopia the Lightning. I went for Lightning instead just because I didn't want to do double or nothing since that just adds an additional brick into the deck, and Muskets is just one of those decks where you really need to put consistency over power since the deck is so prone to bricking. And lastly, just a fun little card. I was trying out number 11 Big Eye because if you Arlecchino's level 7, and if you somehow manage to put 2 on board, you can just go into Big Eye. Now, obviously, that's not very good, but I just thought it'd be funny. I never got to actually do it though. And now for my side deck, I was playing 3 Shifter, 3 Phantasme, 3 Nibiru, 3 Ruler No More, and 3 Lightning Storm. Most of these I don't really need to explain very much. Shifter, I don't really get punished for not having a graveyard, so to run it freely. Ruler No More negates everything, so I can just go freely into max and search all of my musket spell traps. Lightning Storm just really good into back row decks. And Phantasme, this is the main thing I wanted to talk about because it just synergizes so well with muskets. Since if the opponent link summons, you can draw that many and shuffle a card back. A big thing about muskets is that a lot of time you will be able, if you're going first and you summon Phantasme, you'll be able to just use the cards you drew off of Phantasme right away, since you can activate your musket spell traps from hand. And other than that, you can also draw into hand traps. Also, the fact that it unbricks you sometimes is really important because, as I said, muskets are really prone to bricking. So if Droll continues underperforming, or if one of the hand trap start underperforming, then there's a big chance I start main decking Phantasme. But that also depends on playing against more link focused decks, because if stuff like Drytron or B Trooper gets really big, then this starts falling off a little bit. Anyways, that was my deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope to see you again. Peace out, buddies.